What if it rained food? What if Earth was a cube? What if we had 9 lives? What if bits could fly? It's absurd. If money grew on trees, if we didn't have knees, if we walked through life slightly magnetical, it's absurd. Absurd Hypotheticals.
Hello everybody and welcome to Absurd Hypotheticals, the show where we overthink dumb questions so you don't have to. I'm your host Marcus Lehner, and I'm joined here today by Chris Yee and Ben Storms. Say hi, guys.
Hey, I'm Chris.
Hey, I'm Ben. So I was perusing Twitter the other day, and I saw a headline that kind of I saw it and was like, well, this is an intro topic. The headline is undead tree stump is being kept alive by neighboring trees. Zombie trees.
Oh boy, okay.
Yeah, so basically it's in New Zealand. There is this group of trees that somehow have this symbiotic root connection.
Yeah, okay. I think I covered a plant like this, right?
Yeah,
in one of our questions.
The difference is we that was one that was kind of it was more like a lot of that was like a fungus, I think, right? Or was it actually a plant?
I don't remember. I think it was an actual tree, and it was like a whole forest, but it was technically one thing.
Yeah, because I know that with that one and with fungi, the way it works is there's something underground that is the actual real living plant, and then for example mushrooms, there's something underground and the mushrooms are the flowers basically, but they're all one organism. But here there's this dead tree stump that it's dead in the day when the trees are normally trees are always alive, but during the night and on rainy days, it comes back to life. It circulates water and they're assuming nutrients and stuff. And it looks like what's happening is it's basically during the day, it's being provided baseline nutrients from the living trees. And then at night, it's providing some nutrients to the, I guess, living tree. It's somehow it is, despite being a just dead tree stump, not actually dead.
How do they measure whether a tree is alive or not?
Well, so important. I'm happy you asked that, because I'm gonna paste this. I'm gonna paste this in our chat. There is a wonderful image of where they have duct taped heat ratio sap flow sensors onto the stump, and it is absolutely hilarious. So for you guys, you can see this, and I'll probably post this on Facebook. That is how you tell that it is alive. So there is actually sap flowing through it.
This is the $1 million tree stump.
Yeah.
Who thought to do this? Who's I think this tree is still alive.
So
I think
they found it because they could see it was producing resin. They could see it producing resin despite clearly being not a living tree, because it's just a fucking stump. So that's where they, from there they started, researching it, because this is not something that has really been seen before.
So how long do you think this festered in the mind of the biologists who first saw it before they actually decide to commit to it? Because the way you discover this is you're walking through the forest, and you're
right.
There's a dead tree. There's a tree stump that just is is not out of place,
mm-hmm.
and then you see it oozing sap, I guess, and you're just oh, that's weird.
Yeah, most people would just be oh, that's weird, and then walk away.
Even biologists, I think, would be oh, that's weird, and then you'd have to make it back, because you must be there for a different mission. You didn't come and seek this out, so you must be there doing some other work. And then you gotta be
right.
back in your tent, lying down.
Actually,
and
no. They were actually just out on a hike.
Huh? Yeah. So it's just
So they just happened to be by.
Yeah.
What is
complete coincidence?
What's the word for plant people?
Wait. Do you mean people who are plants or people who research plants?
For people who research plants.
Okay. I know he meant ants or something.
I know there's a word for it.
Well, I mean, there's a few of them. There's arborists for trees specifically.
And
there's herbologists for herbs. And then there's biologists for everything.
Generally life.
Animals.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I thought there was a plant equivalent of biology.
Well, I'm sure there is. It's all the fear words. All the scientist words are all the fear words.
Yeah, I'm frantically skimming through this article, trying to see them referred to as the two blanks or something. Damn it, authors? That's not helpful.
Plant people. They call them plant people.
Researchers? That's not helpful either.
What do you call a plant researcher? A plant scientist. Botanist.
Botanist.
Oh,
that's
botanist.
it.
That's the
Yeah.
one.
I knew it began with a B.
Yeah. Anyway, yes. Apparently it is possible for, like, trees to, like, graft their roots onto each other and apparently be zombies because of that. So, that's cool.
Hey, Ben, what do you call a robot that studies plants?
A robotanist?
Yeah.
You could hear the moment where his soul died.
No, it died a long time ago. You know this.
Well, that was our good joke for our intro topic. I think we can move on, right?
Was it?
Too bad our question isn't plant-based.
Yeah, like for once.
Well, we wouldn't want to risk an uprising of the robotanists, so we're going to move on to a completely unrelated question, which is, what if sound waves were visible? Chris, I'm going to let you start off.
So we were trying to figure out, like, what that would actually mean, like, seeing, I was going to say seeing plants, seeing sound. And we, like, early concepts were like, we wanted there to be color or something, but that didn't really work out because color is due to light, and light is like electromagnetic waves, and it's not really the same type of wave. It's like a completely different thing. So what we settled on was just the sound looks like a wavy thing.
Like heat distortion is kind of what
heat distortion.
yeah.
Like if you have a flame, then the waviness above the flame. Or the other example we had was like a shock wave from an explosion. It looks wavy. So that's what we settled on. And for my answer, I wanted to look at roadway noise, because there's a lot of roadway noise. And it can make...
Oh, actually, also, before you start, one of the other things we talked about, we sort of established like a rough scale in decibels. We said that just regular conversation, like that decibel level, which is like 60-ish decibels, right?
Right.
Would be sort of just like a regular, like heat shimmer, like you'd see, on like a hot day. And then around 150 decibels, which is, man, I don't have my scale with like comparisons. What's roughly 150 decibels?
I sent you that scale, Ben, just specifically so you could do this.
I looked at it like throughout the process, but I don't have it open right now. Does anyone remember what was 150 decibels?
150 decibels is like a jackhammer, like right up against your face.
There we go.
Like immediate potential like hearing loss.
Yeah. At that level, that is where it becomes like difficult to make out what things are. So anyway, continue.
So obviously if roadway noise is making the air wavy, or just like your vision wavy, it's going to be really dangerous when you're driving. So roadway noise makes up 80% of all environmental noise that humans hear, like around the world. So it's a lot of roadway noise, and it's contributing to a lot of the waviness. So if we can get that down, we can make the roads safer. Obviously, that's not really a problem in our world, but in this hypothetical, it would be a huge issue. So how do we do this? The contributors to roadway noise are the engine, obviously, aerodynamic noise, and tire and roadway interaction. So like the tires on the actual pavement.
Right.
And when looking up sound mitigation, there are like three main things you can focus on to mitigate the sound. You can focus on the source, so it'd be like the engine, the path. So like if a car is emitting noise and it like bounces off of something, that thing that's bouncing off of is considered the path. So you can like do something to that surface. And then the receiver is just a person hearing it. So in our case, it doesn't really help. Like you can put headphones on the receiver, or like earplugs, so they can't hear the noise. In our case, that doesn't really help because they can still see it, and it's still going to mess with their driving. So
we have to kill them.
I mean, I guess that's the only way to get rid of the waviness for them, I guess.
It would solve the problem immediately.
Not for other people, just for that one person.
All right, so just kill everyone. Solved. Moving on.
That's usually where answers go anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. So we can't, focusing on the receiver doesn't help, so we have to do the source and the path. So the source, which is the engine, the obvious solution is to switch to like electric cars and like hybrid cars. They're way quieter. The thing is, so they're effective at low speed, so like anything below 40. But then once you go above that, the engine doesn't really contribute that much to the noise anymore. It's way more the aerodynamic noise and the tire roadway interaction.
Oh, interesting.
So above 40 miles per hour, the sound emissions double pretty much every 5 miles per hour.
Oh, shit. That's not good.
So we can do the electric and hybrid, but we're going to have to do some other stuff too. So focusing on the tires, so the variation in tire noise is around 10 decibels. So like the quietest and the loudest, they're 10 decibels apart. And it's really no correlation to like the grip of the tire, which is what you might think of at first. They said the quieter tires have less rolling resistance. So I don't know exactly what that is, but I guess I could have looked that up. I didn't really.
Yeah, you could have checked that one.
I'm thinking about it now.
It's all about rolling resistance, which is something. I don't know.
But the listeners can look that up.
Don't put it on our listeners.
We've given you homework, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to understand the rest of Chris's answer, please go to google.com, type in rolling resistance, and do what Chris should have done 2 days ago.
And then also make a time machine and send Chris the link about 20 minutes ago.
It didn't work though because no one came to me from the future and gave me the answer.
That's true. We're doomed.
Damn, we need more listeners or better time machines. One of the two.
So in Europe, they actually have noise ratings for the tires, and for louder tires, they tax you if you use louder tires. So I guess that's one thing.
What? Hold on. That seems insane, but I guess it makes sense, like as a noise reduction measure. But
yeah,
still,
Europe's really big on taxing people for things that they don't want them to do.
Yeah,
which makes a lot of sense to me.
It's reasonable. Yeah,
I mean that's probably what we would do in our case
if we didn't have fucking lobbies everywhere. Anyway, continue.
Well, no, I was saying if we could see sound, then that's what we'd be doing.
I was making a political commentary. Anyway, continue.
Okay. Yeah, so we could do that. We could use quieter tires. We could also, instead of focusing on the tires, we could focus on the roadway. So the material of the road has a 4 decibel variation, and chip seal and grooved roads are the loudest. And then concrete is usually the quietest. So there's a 4 decibel variation between those two. And then asphalt is somewhere in the middle. And most of the streets are asphalt.
Oh, and something important to keep in mind when we're talking about the decibel scale as well. That is a logarithmic scale. So if you increase like from 60 to 70, that's actually 10 times, not technically louder, but more powerful of a sound.
Right.
So a 4 decibel difference is actually a lot bigger than it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot,
seems
but
on the
is.
surface. Yeah.
Yeah, so like when Chris mentions that, like the amount of sound doubles, it's not going to go from 20 decibels to 40 decibels. It's going to go from like 20 decibels to, oh my god, logarithms. How do they work?
20, like, I don't know, 3, I'm guessing here.
Yeah,
but,
like it's a small number. It's a smaller number than you would.
Right. Then your mind
You double
wants it to
something and you don't double it. You increase it by a small number.
Be. Yeah.
Right. Cutting longitudinal grooves into the road also helps reduce the noise. I didn't get a number on that for how much, but in addition to concrete and asphalt, there's also rubberized asphalt, which is like asphalt, but it has mixed in recycled tires, like that are ground up, and it mixes it in, and it actually makes the street more durable. That's like why they started using it in the first place. But then they discovered that it also reduces the sound by 12 decibels, up to 12 decibels, which is a lot.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
So they use this in Arizona. Arizona is actually like the state that kind of pioneered this technology. And then they also use it in California, Florida, Texas, and South Carolina. They're currently testing the durability of it in colder climates. They don't have finalized results for that. But if that works out, they'll probably start using it more commonly in colder climates. And then there is something called porous elastic road surfaces, which is basically you can improve the noise reduction if you use like voids and channels in the rubberized asphalt. So all that stuff combined can reduce the noise by a lot.
That would just be nice in general to have. Like, it's kind of annoying that once you get onto the highway, you have to like really increase your, what you're listening to. Like, well, if you're listening to a podcast, for example, you have to like, I always find myself turning the volume way up while I'm on the highway.
It's very noticeable.
And still like missing bits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we focused on the engine, we focused on the tires, and we focused on the roadway. The last thing was aerodynamics. So you'll notice that trucks are are louder than cars. They have a bigger engine, which is one of the reasons why.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also like aerodynamically not efficient. So they have like a much bigger shape and they're like a flat front and that. So obviously cars are a lot more aerodynamic and they're actually like pretty efficient. So I don't think we can really improve that much. We're not going to gain any noise reduction from that, any like significant noise reduction. So the aerodynamic sound will probably stay about the same. So even though we reduced all this noise, there's still going to be some noise. It's still going to affect our vision. So like, is there some way that we can, instead of focusing on the source, which is the car, can we focus on the pathway? So right now, lots of highways and roads, they use noise barriers. So noise barriers can reduce sound to adjacent areas, like places right next to the highway. You can reduce it to up to 9 to 10 decibels.
Which is a lot because...
Well, yeah, it's a lot. Cause
logarithms.
Logarithms, right. It's actually like 9 decibels is about 86% reduction of unwanted noise. So that's a lot. The problem with noise barriers is that most of them are made with concrete, and concrete is reflective, but it's cheap, which is why they use it a lot. But because it's reflective, it's just going to reflect the noise back into the roadway.
Right.
So,
it just makes the highway louder, which is not really what we're looking for here.
It makes our problem worse. It's just going to make the highway wavier in our vision. So concrete noise barriers aren't really a good thing. But there is something called absorption when you're talking about sound. So like soft porous materials, they're better at like sound insulators instead of like hard flat surfaces. And there's a thing called an anechoic, I don't know how you pronounce that, anechoic chamber. It's basically a room that has like a bunch of sound baffles on all the walls and roof and everywhere.
Those like foam triangle things, pyramids, whatever you call them.
Yeah, so the sound baffles, they both absorb the sound and they angle the sound. So they absorb a lot of the sound, and then all the sound that they don't absorb, they angle towards another baffle, and that baffle absorbs it. So if you're standing in this room, there's basically no echo at all. It's considered like the quietest like condition that you can be in. There are a bunch of YouTube videos on these types of chambers. You can search it, and it's pretty interesting.
I've heard they're like really freaky to like actually be in.
Yeah, just because it's so quiet and there's like absolutely no echo at all.
Yeah, and then like you start like hearing things like the blood in your veins and like your your heartbeat, and then like you like start hearing your own bodily functions because there's nothing else to hear.
Yeah. So these rooms exist, but they are very expensive to make just because you need a lot of insulation. The sound baffles cost a lot. And you could technically make noise barriers on highways out of this stuff. And they do have some special cases where they have absorbative barriers, but they're very expensive and they're usually just custom made for that purpose. So it's not really a practical solution. So next I wanted to see if we could use like active noise cancellation, because like noise canceling headphones, some of them are what they call active. So like it takes in the noise from outside and then it like cancels it out with like an opposite noise wave. It's called destructive interference. So like it's basically the same sound wave, but it's the same amplitude, but it's inverted in its phase, so it cancels out. And they already use this in some of the cabins of different cars. So like you were mentioning before that like when you speed up on the highway, it gets louder. They have some cars that can cancel that out. But that's for the driver. It's not in the roadway. So I was like, can we replace the noise barriers with like speakers or something and like just pipe in a bunch of canceling noise? And the problem is that active noise cancellation usually relies on like a very consistent background noise because it needs to match that noise. And if the noise is going all over the place, then it can't match it. And it's also like right now the technology is only really good for small isolated areas. So like doing it on a highway is not feasible. I don't know, maybe in the future they'll get better technology, but right now it's not there. So for towns and cities, you'll just go slow. There'll be like a very strict speed limit, and that's how you'll keep the waviness down in cities. For highways and like higher speed areas, I really did not have a solution at all, because people don't really care about the sound on the highway. They only care about the sound next to the highway. So like no one has done any research on reducing the sound on the highway.
I mean, it's not like we had some options to like slightly mitigate it with, electric cars and doing, grooves in the pavement and using different materials.
Yeah, but you won't like, I guess I didn't look into like how wavy it'll actually be, but it might be drivable. I don't know. I did consider magnetic levitation because there are like trains that use that. So like a train will have a magnetic bottom and it'll like sort of hover over the tracks, and then there's no interaction with with the track because of that, and it's like quiet. And you could you could potentially do the same thing with cars. It's a little trickier with cars because the car is not on a track, it's on a road, and the road is not metal, so you'd have to magnetize the road, which would be tricky.
Red, expensive.
Yeah. And like a train is on a track, so you don't have to steer it at all. Like the main way that you steer a car is that there's friction on the roads and you turn and it turns because there's friction, but you won't have friction, so you can't turn. So I don't know how that would work either. So I don't.
Not well.
Yeah,
Probably.
not well. I don't think that's a reasonable solution.
It would be hilarious for like 3 minutes though.
Yeah. So I don't have a solution, but we sort of mitigated it.
We did what we could.
We
Then
did
we're
what
just
we
gonna have
could.
to deal with wobbly roads.
Yeah. So that's what I did. Ben, what did you do?
Yeah, what'd you make wobbly?
So I looked into originally I was just gonna do like concerts, but I kind of expanded sort of just entertainment in general because most of it is affected. Because I don't know if you noticed this, but most things we like doing are loud as sort of a species,
Like this podcast.
like this podcast. But I'll go ahead and start with concerts. That was kind of where I started. It's kind of the simplest one. So obviously, concerts are loud. This is not news to anyone. I was a little surprised. I actually looked up like the record for like loudest concerts and stuff. Currently, the loudest concert on record, there was a Kiss concert in 2009 in Ottawa, where they reached 136 decibels.
Oh my.
I assume that's including the crowd noise too, right?
I'm actually not sure.
Because how would they measure just the stage noise?
That's a good point. I mean, I would imagine they were doing it from relatively close, and like I feel like the speakers would somewhat overwhelm the crowd noise if you are like,
Right.
Yeah. But I would imagine it's mostly the band themselves, but also some crowd noise as well, I'm sure. But yeah, so obviously, concerts would be quite blurry. But you know what? I actually don't think that matters that much in this one, because I don't know, concerts are kind of an audio medium anyway. Like, yeah, seeing the performance is, particularly for some acts, like a big draw, but it's not.
Might actually enhance the experience.
Well, again, that's what I was gonna say. There are definitely gonna be some acts that like lean into this pretty heavily, and you think about like if you're at like an EDM show and you have like a pulsing bass line, and as that's pulsing, you have like that like same pulsing gradation in like the distortion in the air. That's gonna look fucking sick.
Pretty cool.
So
Also, you could probably do a lot more concerts because now, since everything's so wobbly, you can just use lookalikes.
this is
You just
also
don't
true. Yeah, no one will be able to tell.
Who knows who's on stage?
Yeah,
It's just a dummy, and you're just listening to the album.
exactly.
They just play the album
Yeah.
with some like
It's just
animatronics
it's
from
like
Chuck
the
E.
Chuck E.
Cheese.
Cheese
Like Chuck E.
matcher up
Cheese.
there, and yeah. So concerts, honestly, cool and all, but it's not actually that big of a difference. We start getting into some sort of fun situations is TV and movies. Because even ignoring, like, actually watching them, when it comes to filming, you get into and like making the movies or the TV shows, you actually run into some trouble. Because just like normal sound isn't really that much of an issue for the most part, because, even if it's, way when people are talking, that's how it looks when people talk, so people are used to it. The one kind of weird thing is that, if you have like a scene in a restaurant, you're going to use like boom mics to specifically pick up the characters talking, not all the background noise. But you're still going to have all of the sound, like, or all of the visual sound, for lack of a better word, of the background noise in a scene.
All the ambient
Oh,
sound.
it's gonna be like a bad lip sync, but like
Right.
not.
Yeah, but just sort of constantly in the background of literally every scene. So
It'd be
I don't
like,
know.
I see that person talking, but I don't hear them.
Right, exactly. Which is going to be kind of weird. And I feel like it's either going to be just, one, people get used to it because every movie will look like that. Or if it is, like, really distracting, I guess you'd, like, CG it out. I don't know. Like,
CG out the noise.
yeah, that seems weird, but, you know, it would be... I'm not sure how much of an issue it would be, but it'd probably be an issue. And, like, you know, it just wouldn't work if you had, like, you know, it's like a rom-com and the last scene is them, like, at Niagara Falls or something. That's not gonna fucking work. Like, you're gonna have to do something there. Like...
Or a lot of times they have, like, montages and they don't have, like,
Yes.
the on-scene sound.
Exactly.
There's, like, music playing over it.
Yeah, you know, so there's going to be some weirdness there. The bigger thing actually is, going back to CG budgets are going to skyrocket because, take for example, something like Pacific Rim or something, where you make a giant robot. Giant robots make a lot of noise. But you now no longer have to only CG your giant robot, you also have to CG in effects for all of the noise it's making. And sort of similarly, if you just have, like, you know, if you make like a war movie, you probably don't want your sound distortion to be what the actual sound distortion would be, because it would be unwatchable. Because as far as I know, war is loud.
Could you film? You have your film, right? That you CG'd up, so there's no vibrations.
Yep.
Could you then film, like, take a video of your film with the sound playing, and then use those vibrations to, like, add the vibrations in? If that makes
Reference
sense.
sound map.
You're gonna have to go through that one more time.
Okay, so you have your clean movie that has no vibrations in it, right?
Yep. Oh, I see what you're saying.
And you film it while the sound is playing, and that'll add between you, like, the screen and the camera, it'll add those the motions back, and they wouldn't be, like, location specific. Like, I'm not sure how well we'd be able to tell, like, if it's coming out of somebody's mouth, but you'd have the overall scale of the sound.
They kind of already do that for light. Like, if they if they know they're gonna have a CG character or something in the scene, then they take a light reference from that scene so they can reference to it, and they know how the light is acting, so they can do that with the sound.
Yeah, it might work. That could work. And also, you're gonna get fun things. This is something I actually literally just thought of. So, you know, for, like, a gunfight, you're obviously gonna, you know, if possible, once again, you're not gonna want to use actual, like, that amount of distortion. There is a great gunfight scene, and there's this movie, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, that I adore. It's a Robert Rodriguez movie. It has Antonio Banderas and Johnny Depp, and it's great. It's super dumb. I love it.
Is that the one with the guitar case?
Yes, it's the one with the guitar case. Yeah, it's that one. There is a gunfight in a church. That's like an actual church in Mexico they shot in. And they had to use, like, just prop guns. They couldn't use actual, like, blank firing guns for it. So all of the gunfire in that scene is CG'd in, and all of the sound is you know, added in afterwards. So they were just holding fake guns and, like, acting like they were shooting them the entire time. And it's great because there's actually a shot where you can see Antonio Banderas making little, like, pew pew noises with his mouth as he's shooting them, and it's the greatest thing ever. It's so good.
Filming that must have been really weird.
Oh, I'm sure. I think it was actually on, like there's a behind the scenes thing where they have, like, a shot of them, like, just, like, the raw footage, and it's hilarious because he's just, like, walking backwards, like, shaking guns up and down.
I love behind the scenes films. Like, whenever you see, especially, like, the some of these new Disney films, like, did you ever see the Beauty and the Beast behind the scenes ones? Where it's, like, this dude in a giant fucking suit with dots all over it, and it's just like
the other one I love is there were shots of on the scenes of Game of Thrones where there would be times where they were, like, interacting with a dragon, and there'd just be a dude in a like in a, you know, a green suit with, like, a dragon head he's holding over his head, like, pretending to be a dragon, and it's the funniest thing.
Or in The Revenant, they had that scene where
with
Leonardo DiCaprio's getting attacked by the bear.
Yeah.
And it's just a guy in a blue bear
suit. Anyway, so you know, there's stuff in, like, the making of movies that you'll deal with, but you can deal with all that. The weirder thing is, in both movies and TV, we're going to have to change kind of how we watch them. So with TVs, it's not too bad. Apparently, it was hard to get, like, a good number on how loud TVs are, but roughly, like, 70 decibels seems like a pretty average number I was seeing. So you'd have some impact there, but not too bad. I think the biggest thing you do is people would use TV speakers a lot less because they're, like, right next to the screen, obviously. You have a lot more, like, external speakers because that way the distortion isn't right next to your screen.
Oh, that's a good plan.
Or headphones.
Headphones are going to be key.
Well, and so that's where the bigger issue, movie theaters get tricky.
Mm.
And I think that, because, like, once again, it was pretty hard to find good numbers. It looks like movies are mastered to be at around 85 decibels, but a lot of times theaters show them louder. I was seeing up to like 94 to 98, but a lot of those were based on those apps that give you decibel readings that are crap. But loud enough, there would definitely be distortion. So I think that really what you have to do there, because like the audio quality is a big appeal of the theater, I think you would have to just have like kick-ass headphones at every seat, basically. Which is actually kind of awesome, because then like people eating their popcorn, opening their candy and shit, you don't care anymore. It doesn't matter. You got headphones on.
I feel like this is something that probably exists somewhere.
I'm sure it exists somewhere, but I think it would be much more common, because otherwise, you know, you go to like the IMAX screen and you just can't see shit. And
Yeah.
like,
I mean, theaters are getting way more luxurious now
right, you know?
with like reclining seats.
Yeah.
Well, some movie theaters will serve you like dinner.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love those. Those are so good.
Have you been to one?
Yeah. Yeah, I went to
Oh,
one.
I wanna go to
one
where?
in Virginia. So the one I went to was when I went home for Christmas. There is one near Boston. It's like west of Boston. I can't remember. Where's that? Sorry, this is audio poison right now. Where's the Chestnut Hill? Chestnut Hill. There's one.
Can we go? I still have to see Detective Pikachu. After this podcast is over, let's go watch a movie.
It's probably not in theaters anymore.
It's not. And anyway, so sure, we can go see Detective. Sure, Marcus, we'll go see Detective Pikachu. Yeah. And finally, there's one more thing, and I have to thank my dad for this, actually. So no joke. Last night I was out at dinner with my family for my grandmother's 89th birthday, and I mentioned that we were recording this today, and I mentioned what the topic was and what I was doing, and he asked me if I was talking about sporting events, and I was like, shit, I'm not, but I need to.
That's a good point.
Because sporting events get really loud. So, like, going back to, like, world records, the loudest indoor sporting event ever, it was a college men's basketball game at University of Kansas, where it got to 130.4 decibels. Loudest outdoor one was an NFL game at Arrowhead Stadium, where the Chiefs play, where it got to 142.2 decibels. Those weren't like averages; those were peaks, obviously. But you know, at intense moments, it can get crazy loud, and this is going to just fuck up some sports. Like, imagine if you're trying to shoot free throws, and suddenly it is so loud that you can't keep track of where the hoop is. Like,
that is excellent.
Like football, you know, if you're the quarterback and you take the snap, and suddenly like the world is like, you know, like a fucking like dolly painting. Like, what are you gonna do?
I mean, the crowd could use this to their advantage. If
Oh, yeah.
their
Well, and
home
then
team-
the crazy thing is too, and you kind of get this already in most sports, where when you're like in football particularly, because the team has to like communicate with each other. When your team is like setting up for the play, you'll be quiet, or you know, relatively quiet, so they can, you know, talk to each other. And then when the opposing team is trying to, you get really loud, so they can't. But it's going to be just that, but just amped up so much, because, like, you can have such a huge impact on everything they're doing. And the other one, so the one I wanted to talk about briefly, NASCAR, one, just probably can't exist anymore, because, once again, cars are loud, and NASCAR cars are just, like, specifically very loud.
and you're going very fast.
Yeah, and apparently, like on the track, the decibel level is, like, 103 to 140. And so that's really bad, and it's going to be dangerous and terrible. But think about how fucking cool it would look, because of how, like, big the track is and how the noise is concentrated around the cars. When you have, like, a pack of cars, you're going to have just this moving, like, ball of distortion around them. That's going to look sick. Now, they're probably going to crash and die, so it probably won't last very long. But while it does, it's going to look so cool.
I mean, people always go and wait for the crashes anyway, right?
This is true.
So NASCAR just got better.
Actually, I will say, as I was researching this, apparently there's lobbying to try to reduce the sound of NASCAR, or they want to cap make it be like 120 decibels max. It's like an ongoing actual thing, because it's like apparently just like a huge OSHA violation. So that is actually a thing that people are trying to do, even without, you know, being blinded by it. Anyway, that's kind of what I had. So pretty much everything, you know, all of our leisure activities would be pretty affected here, but I think we could mostly, you know, get around it. So, Marcus, what did you do?
So where I started off was actually, what I didn't know was, why aren't sound waves visible? Because sounds are basically just vibrations. So shouldn't the air kind of like be vibrating all the time and looking like this normally? Like if you have, if you have a really big speaker that's like shaking, from the sound, it's like you can see that. You think that you could see the sound, through the air and stuff would be also kind of just a little shaky. And so the answer is that the wavelength of light is so much shorter than the wavelengths of sound. So the a wavelength of light is about 400 to 700 nanometers, which is, a meter times 10 to the negative 7th, like 6 zeros and then a 1. And sound waves are around the order of like a meter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like a sound wave is like, they're actually usually compared to like just like ocean waves. Like a sound wave is about the size of an ocean wave. So, and because the magnitudes of these wavelengths are so different, the waves actually just don't interact with each other in any meaningful way.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to see if there's a way to make this hypothetical make physical sense. And in order for sound to affect light, either the frequency of all sound waves would have to be increased dramatically, or the frequency of light would have to decrease dramatically. And so I was exploring this a little bit, but it turns out if we increase the wavelengths of sound, basically we are adding more and more energy into all sounds that exist. And since sound is just vibration, the energy of that vibration would basically just shake everything apart and destroy anything of note, really.
Cool. Good start.
And if you decrease the frequency of light, you are now altering the fundamental energy of of light itself. And as we explored a few episodes ago, if you decrease the speed of light, things go very, very bad very, very quickly. So there wasn't too much of an answer in whether in these two scenarios, whether everything gets shaken apart or everything just dies, because you're changing physics too much.
So in our 30 mile per hour light question, part of that answer was that we'd be able to see sound?
Yeah.
Cool.
So you can append that to that answer before it immediately gets, tossed aside by much more terrible things that happen. So physically, we can't really make it work. So let's pretend it magically interacts and go from there. So I mentioned that the sound and light can interact based on the wavelengths, but there is a real life example of them interacting. At the University of Minnesota, researchers have actually been able to integrate sound and light on a computer chip. And the way they did this is they kind of combined like an optical sensor and a audio sensor, and they were able to have this chip generate a sound of 10 gigahertz, which, to put that into context, is the highest sound that we can hear as humans is 20,000 hertz, and 10 gigahertz is 500,000 times louder than that, or more frequent than that. So this sound is actually past like ultrasound and all those different things, so it's like just an absolutely crazy level of sound. And at this frequency, the frequency of sound is actually higher than that of light, but like in the same order of magnitudes. So once you have this, the sound actually is bending the light to a significant degree, and you can use the sound to control the light in the chip. So what's cool about this is if you look at quantum computing, so basically the way quantum computing works, or the idea behind it once they get it going, is that the main draw is what they call quantum entanglement. So two like quantum particles can be what they call entangled, in that if you move one, the other one reacts instantaneously regardless of how far apart they are. And this basically just breaks physics. I don't think they know exactly why this is true, but if you take one particle and you can separate them by miles and you move one, the other one will move instantaneously, no time dilation, which breaks all the things we know about the speed of light.
Mm-hmm.
So light is made up of photons. What I didn't know, and I thought was a fake fact when I first read it, is that there's a quantum unit of sound called phonons. Which I was like, are you sure? Are you sure, science article?
Are you sure about that?
Are you phoning this one in? So a phonon is the quantum unit of vibration. And so you could theoretically also entangle, to my understanding, you could also entangle phonons. And since you can get phonons to vibrate faster than photons, you could actually increase the data transfer above light. So sound could be an actual better medium of transferring information than light in a quantum computing setting that, of course, doesn't exist yet, but would be super duper cool. So that's kind of the future. So there would be actual real life applications of using sound to interact with light. In our hypothetical, if it's magically working, sound's still going to be slow and not be good for this. So what does it actually do for us in our hypothetical? I was trying to find out if there was productive ways that you could use sound to change light in a computing sense. And then I remembered something that we've covered a couple times is fiber optic cables. So the way fiber optic cables work is they carry information by basically shooting light down a cable and using a series of mirrors to, transfer that light through and out the other side, and it's a very quick and efficient way of transferring information. We use fiber optic cables underneath the ocean to transfer the internet from continent to continent. So very important, very good technology. If sound at regular levels interferes with light, it's going to fuck with our fiber optics, because any sound that gets in the cable is going to bend the light, and there goes your whole stream of data.
I mean, wires are protected though, right?
Not from sound.
Yeah,
doesn't
but
matter.
they're not
Not from
sound.
sound.
Yeah.
I guess the sound goes through. Yeah.
The sound goes through. They're like protected by, they're in a coating or of whatever, but they're in a pretty solid coating, and so if a vibration hits that, it's just going to go right through and mess with your signal. So I was like, well, maybe good news. The cables are at the very bottom of the ocean, so it's probably pretty quiet down there, right? Turns out it's not. Water is a very good medium for sound to travel through. So, for example, whale cries can be heard from hundreds of miles away, which more than gets you to the bottom of the ocean.
Did you see the decibel level given the medium of water for like the blue whale call? Because I saw that and couldn't figure out any way to put the fact in.
I didn't see it.
It's like 182 decibels or something. It's absurd.
Jesus,
Yeah. But I mean,
that's like
it's
more than a jackhammer.
The thing to like keep in mind with that is that because it is such a better medium for sound, you have to drop it by like 60 decibels or something to get like an equivalent on land.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
But relative to the medium, it's like 182. It would still be loud in air. It would be, using that, it would be like 120, which is very loud. But yeah, it's kind of absurd. Anyway, continue.
Well, that's a good point too, because I didn't think about that in water, the effective decibel level is that much higher because it's a better medium. So the cables being underwater is actually going to be harmful to the level of data retention. And so I don't know if you can just glue those foam triangles all around all the cables in all the oceans and build like a soundproof room for them to travel through, but we don't have them now. So this unexpected side effect of being able to see sound waves is that the internet breaks.
Clearly, the answer is to flash back to our first episode and train whales to yell our data across the oceans.
I was going to say, I was pretty sure we mentioned that whale noise fact in our first episode.
We may have, yeah.
All the way back to episode 1.
Wow.
It's amazing how much I remember about... Well, it's not surprising, but it's amazing how much I remember about episode 1, like the specific facts.
And not episode 2.
Compared to episode like 2 through like 50.
Yeah.
Can you even remember the questions for episode 2? I can't.
Episode 2, one of them was rivers flowing backwards, right?
And the other one, I remember the other one. The other one was, what if you're always off by a factor of 10? That was a weird one to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those were good episodes. I actually still really like our episode 1. I think it was a good one.
It was a solid first episode.
Mm-hmm.
Pilot episode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was a solid this episode, so I think I'm going to call it there and move us on to our Would You Rather. Guys, I am so absolutely overprepared for all our Would You Rather questions going forward. Because usually we just wing these, but I was down at Atlanta for work this week, and I had like an hour to kill, and I was right by Barnes & Noble. So I was browsing Barnes & Nobles in their little bargain section, seeing if anything was good. And I found the Holy Tomb, I couldn't think of a famous book.
Just to be clear, you mean Holy Tome, right?
Yeah, the Holy Tomb. The Holy Tome.
The Holy Tomb of all Would You Rathers past.
Of all Would You Rather past, which is called, appropriately titled, 3,000 Would You Rather Questions.
It's a lot.
What I like about this book is that it doesn't fuck around. It doesn't have a table of contents. It doesn't have anything. There's one page with like the cover repeated, and then it just starts at number 1 and just goes 15 per page all the way up to 3,000. There's not even page numbers. It just goes.
Does it number the Would You Rathers?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Mm.
And so today we're going to do number 60 because it took me 60 to get to a good one.
So 3,000 is less impressive than it sounds.
Yeah.
We're going to be honest here.
There's a lot of bad ones. But the question is, would you rather be rebuilt as part machine or part animal?
Do we get to choose the animal?
You get to choose the animal
Or
or
the machine bits. Oh, this is actually really tough. Because for performance reasons, it's clearly machine. But from a like
For maintenance stuff.
maintenance stuff and just like a people wanting to touch you situation, I feel like animal. If you had like big old bear arms, wouldn't people just hug you all the time? Like, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, and you could feel their hugs. That's a big thing.
Oh
too.
yeah, you wouldn't be able to feel as a machine.
That's also.
So I think that's the main draw, I think, of the animal part.
Okay, I feel like we have to say you have some amount of sensation.
I mean, you're not
robot
you're not
limbs.
entirely machine. You have human bits, so your human bits can feel.
Right. How many? Okay, so I guess okay. So here's a question: how rebuilt are we talking here?
All right, let's do one leg,
Mm-hmm.
the opposite arm,
Mm-hmm.
and then half your face.
Okay.
If we're doing a mix, I think it has to be animal. I think if you are like if you're replacing like your bottom half, you can make an argument for machine. But I think if you have still one human leg, it has to be an animal leg. That's the only correct choice. Because otherwise, like having a machine leg doesn't help you. Having one strong leg and fast leg doesn't do shit. Just makes you run in circles real fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so well, I mean, one strong arm would get you places. One strong arm.
One arm strong is helpful.
One arm strong is helpful. You can win a bike race.
I think it's animal. I think it's animal regardless.
I mean, animal parts are like specifically good at like being part of that animal.
But like, could you get like gorilla arms? Like that just feels like a strict upgrade.
But they'd be like heavy, like compared to the rest of your body. I don't know if your body could support that.
Well, how heavy are robot arms?
I don't know, but you could like design it specifically to accommodate yourself.
You can make a robot arm lighter than your own arm.
Yeah, you can make it. You're gonna like carbon fiber and be fucking awesome. So yeah, okay, fair enough.
You can be way more specific with the design of the machine.
That is true. Okay, that's a fair point. So you can get like a corkscrew in there and shit. All right.
Yeah, that's one thing. I don't know how big a point it is, but it seems like a bigger point in my brain is that I saw someone, they had like a hand prosthetic,
Mm-hmm.
and they were able to one of the fingers like actually like pushed back, and there was a USB like connector right on the finger, so they have built in like data storage. I'm like, that's actually pretty handy. Like if you can design your robot parts, you can add some pretty cool features.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing with robot arms is that with animal arms, everything is designed for, unsurprisingly, human hands. And a robot hand can be like a human hand, but not. Whereas an animal hand, even if you take something that is, relatively humanish, is still not going to be quite the same design.
You'll still have one human hand though.
You will. That's fair.
To my brain, the way the question this breaks down to is the animal part is going to be worse, but enable you to feel, and the robot part is going to be better, but be like an attachment, like a very robot-y one, like very very dispersonal.
All right. So if you guys were picking an animal arm, which animal arm would you choose? It definitely has to be something with opposable thumbs.
Yeah, so you're really limited to just you're like limited to monkeys.
Can you choose a body part that's not their arm as your arm?
Interesting. Explain.
Okay, explain.
Like an elephant trunk or something for your arm.
Oh. Would you be able to like breathe out of it? Because that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, now elephant trunk connected to my lungs. Now we're talking.
We're definitely talking here. A little awkward in like an elevator, I guess, but I guess most of these will be, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like proportional to your body or if it's still the same size as an elephant.
Here's an important question for your elephant arm. Do elephants get congested?
I feel like I've definitely seen like liquid come out of an elephant trunk.
Yeah.
I'm gonna really regret Googling do elephants get congested because it's gonna be gross. Do elephants get boogers?
Do elephants get boogers? Oh, the places we've gone.
I don't know about dry boogers, but elephant trunks have mucous membranes, so they are full of snot.
Cool. And that could be a perk if you think about it.
How?
It's like a defense mechanism.
I guess. You don't use your nose as a defense mechanism.
Well, it got a lot less snot in there than you do in an elephant trunk.
Like, if you feel threatened, do you ever just blow snot at them?
I do not. I'm going to freely admit that I have never done that, but I may consider it going forward.
Oh God, no! I shouldn't have Googled this. What do you know what to do with elephants?
Oh, what have you done?
There's a monkey, a bonobo. Genteel bonobos have a special method of helping their babies breathe better. I've seen mother bonobos using their mouths to suck the snot out of a congested infant's nose.
Like good mothering, go on the bracket next time. But
Okay. Yeah, elephant trunk is too gross. Not an option anymore.
I'm not opposed to it still.
I'm too grossed out to think about this anymore.
All right, are we gonna try to render a verdict? Are we gonna?
Yes, do it now, please. I need to go off this podcast and go throw up.
I'm gonna choose machine.
Marcus?
I'm gonna go animal.
You gotta make me choose.
You're not a tiebreaker, Ben. It's your own choice.
I know.
Also, this isn't a set order, so if you don't want to go last, just go.
Yeah, I should have done that. God, I don't know, man. I like being able to feel things. Makes me feel alive.
You'll still be able to feel things with half your body.
I'm gonna go machine.
Yeah.
Because also, actually, we didn't even talk about... Because you mentioned half your face, right? We didn't even get into that whole can of worms.
I don't think I'd make my half a face a can of worms.
Seems unwise. Yeah, I'm gonna go machine. So, whoever said animal, I already forgot what you guys chose.
I picked animal.
Yeah, I picked machine.
Damn it, Marcus, you're wrong.
Well, if we're wrong about this Would You Rather or about any of our questions, let us know. Shoot us an email at absurdhypotheticals@gmail.com. And if you have something like an idea for a question, also let us know. We are more than happy to take listener questions and answer them on the show. We haven't done one in a while, but we are always on the lookout for them. And if you enjoyed the show, leave us a review on iTunes or Google Play or wherever you get your podcasts. They are a super great way to support the show. That doesn't cost you anything but a couple minutes. And if you just want more of the podcast that you're going to mooch off of for free without leaving us a review, you can tune in to us next week where we answer the following question. What if humans had to hibernate? Featuring special guest Jason Paul.